So this is one of my favorite tropes, and that makes me so happy that I can finally do a video about it. Hello everybody, my name is Danny, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the latest installment in the Let's Talk Tropes series. Today's trope is the Lost Woods, and I just think it's a really fun one, and it's also pretty common in media, so that's why we're talking about it today. So the basic premise of this trope is that the woods were ancient before civilization even exists, and they hold a kind of magic or a kind of power not made by man, stronger than anything made by man, and it's both terrifying and alluring because of that. So nature reigns here, and men are not welcome, unless of course the woods want something from them, in which case they'd be hard-pressed to deny the woods what they want. The woods are full of magical creatures and treasures so tantalizing that people would risk their lives for it, and the Lost Woods are loved, feared, and respected in equal measure. So the first example of it that I could think of is the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. Now, this trope is found in very many fairy tales, but I think Hansel and Gretel takes the cake with the representation. Get it? Takes the cake. But if for some reason you're not familiar with this fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel are siblings, and either their parents or step-parents, depending on which version of the story you're reading, have them go into the woods and get lost, and they end up finding a house made of candy in the woods, and they go there, and at first the woman who lives there seems like she wants to take care of them, but really she just wants to fatten them up to eat them. And so they quickly realize that they have to get out of there, and they kill the witch in order to escape, and eventually make their way back home and happily ever after, as fairy tales end. And so in this fairy tale, it's an example of how the woods represent that when something seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. A house made of candy is secretly holding a witch who wants to eat you, and that's not a fun time. My next example is the Studio Ghibli movie Princess Mononoke, and this is a classic movie when it comes to themes of anti-industrialism and the strength and power of nature. And the premise of the movie is that the protagonist is attacked by this spirit and is injured, and so he goes into the woods to seek a cure from a nature god, and there's a war going on between nature and man. And I apologize for my cat screaming in the background, but this is a war not easily fought on either side. Next up, I want to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time, Quest for Camelot. And this movie follows our protagonist Kaylee, and she is the daughter of one of the Knights of the Round Table, and her father is actually slain by another knight who wants to take over the kingdom for himself, and so she sets off on this quest for Camelot where she wants to find the legendary sword Excalibur and bring it back to King Arthur so he can restore his place on the throne as the rightful king. And on this adventure, she has to travel through the Forbidden Forest, which is a forest, as you can imagine, full of all this magic and danger, and there she meets Garrett, who is a blind hermit, and he's the only man who knows the secrets of the Forbidden Forest. It's kind of his sanctuary, and his song where he sings about that is like one of the best in the entire movie, if I do say so myself. The entire soundtrack is great, but I really love that song. But yes, this is a very strange forest, and like it's interesting that they have a disabled character being the one who knows all the secrets of this forest, and the fact that he's blind doesn't affect his ability to navigate through all of these dangers. And if you haven't seen Quest for Camelot, I just highly recommend it. It's a really good movie. It's a little outdated because it's from the late 90s, but like it's really cute. Then, if we are talking the Lost Woods, how could I not bring up Fangorn Forest and Mirkwood from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien? They are the two major forests across the realm of Middle Earth, and they are home to and elves and ents and any creature that you could think of. Tolkien was really good at shoving this trope into basically everything he wrote. Now, my favorite forest dweller in Tolkien's works is Tom Bombadil, and if you've only seen the Lord of the Rings movies, then you have no idea who he is, so highly recommend that you read The Fellowship of the Ring because he is quite the character. And next up, I want to talk about Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and here is my ARC copy that I got 6.5 years ago, and I still haven't bought a finished copy, even though I've read this book several times and I love it, but it's fine. And as you can tell from the fact that it's uprooted, trees and the forest play a major part of this book. And it kind of gives Princess Mononoke vibes to me, where depending on whose side of the story you're focusing on, the forest is definitely an antagonist, but it's not really a villain. And I just think that it's really, really well done. And if you like spooky nature spirits, then this book might be your thing. Similarly, we have The Bone Houses, which is right up here on my shelf by Emily Lloyd Jones. If you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know that this is one of my favorite books ever. I just read it a couple of months ago and haven't been able to stop talking about it. Like Uprooted, it has that cozy village surrounded by a magical forest vibe, and it's just so cool. And this one has zombies, so if you like zombies, definitely check it out. A big difference between this book and Uprooted is that Uprooted kind of expands outward from this small town and goes on to encompass the kingdom as a whole in the issues in the book, whereas The Bone Houses really focuses inward on our main characters, Rin and Ellis, and their relationships with each other and the people that they love, and really like relationships with themselves. And I just think it's fantastically done. And so definitely read it if you haven't already. If you take anything away from my channel, it should be that you should read The Bone Houses because it's so good. And last but not least, this would not be a Let's Talk Tropes video if I didn't talk about my own project. And so my nano project this year is called Project Labyrinth, and it doesn't totally fit this trope, but I mean it kind of does, so I'm shoehorning it in here. So in my story, the Forbidden Forest or Lost Woods kind of like just scratch the surface of the magic and weirdness in my story. What really is like the bigger part of that are the mountains and the mines that lie within the forest, but of course my protagonists do have to travel through the forest to get there, and it's just real spooky because they travel at night and there's some conflict, and it's definitely like a light version of this trope that I'm using, but it's there nonetheless. And so, if you'd like to hear more about my story, definitely stay tuned for my NaNoWriMo vlogs and other videos I'll be putting out about Project Labyrinth. And with that, we come to the end of this video. So as always, I would love to hear your opinions on this trope, your favorite examples of it, all that good stuff. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you in the next video. Bye!